Hi, this is Peter Godinas, your ambassador with KDY TV, and Good Morning Oxnard. And again, I think I have a celebrity in front of me from Oxnard. You already may know him. He's the face. He grew up here, and it's Vince Behrens. And he is, I want to call a business leader in the area. Has a business in the area, and I just really enjoy his point of view. And we actually had a divine moment because where we connected, and we're both married, and we serve our wives like we're butlers, if I could say it that way. And my wife wanted to go to Barnes & Noble, and so I went. And who should be there reading books, waiting for his wife? Vince. And so I knew that we had to come and get you in for an interview. So how you doing, Vince? You always are. So we have to get kind of peel back the onion so far.
Okay, we'll peel it.
We'll do.
I'm there.
And you know, I got to make a reference to our first interview that we did here. So this is kind of like the sequel. You know, only 6 or 7 years later, and now I'm really starting to get to know you in this area. It's all good, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Everything's wonderful. I have no complaints in life.
You're not a complainer, I can tell.
Nope.
But you know what I would really love to collaborate with you is, you know, what it's like being a business owner. I'll call it a very successful business leader, and I know it's a challenge to keep that success going up. But what would you say, describe yourself from the standpoint of what's it like being a business owner of your profile in this community called Oxnard?
Well, my business has turned out, it's the oldest cleaners in the county, it's the biggest cleaners in the county, and so what ends up happening is, and everybody comes and talks to me, and so I get the dirt before it actually becomes mud. So what ends up happening is that we converse about normal, because of my location, which is right down the street from City Hall, we talk about City Hall and who's involved, whatever scandals going on at the time, whoever's running, everybody kind of comes and has that conversation. You know, I think I've reached that point. I'm almost 60, where I'm the great stage of what do you not want to say when you decide to run for council,
right.
or should you run for council, right?
Now you actually ran, and actually if I remember right, got a significant amount of.
Yeah, I ran twice. I did it just for fun. It was a good time. I raised $10,000 really quickly. I gave most of it back because there's really not much you can spend it on, unless you're going to do a lot more with radio. And I just wasn't willing to walk the districts But it was fun to actually kind of go out and do the debates, and to actually sit down with 12 other people, because both times 13 people ran, including me. So
wow.
We had fun having the conversation, going around all the neighborhood councils and just finding out what each neighborhood was asking for, had been asking for, couldn't figure out why they weren't getting it. And it was interesting to see everyone's take on each individual section of the city.
No, I love it. I'm sure you learned a lot through both experiences.
Yeah. Well, when you live here all your life, you know pretty much all the neighborhoods already.
Oh, yeah.
It was interesting to see what neighborhood councils were active, what neighborhood councils were trying to get active, who was trying to move things forward. That was very interesting. It's a lot of neighborhoods. You know,
I may have got the number wrong. I just want to check it, but the first time I'd heard that you got about 5,000 votes. Do you remember how many votes you got?
No, I have no idea. Everyone asked me that. Once I knew that I was not going to win, I
okay.
It.
And you know what? That's appropriate. And the name of your business is called what?
American Drive-In Cleaners.
And you have how many locations?
Just the one.
Just the one.
Happy with one. When my father died, we had 5.
Okay. So I'm sure it's very quality, consolidated.
Yeah. No, we do everything. I mean, it's been downtown. My dad was very active politically. He was Mr. Downtown for the longest time. And when he passed away, I kind of inherited all of that through whether I wanted to or not. So that's why I say it's the meeting spot. It's been very frustrating to see the city kind of go through its trials and tribulations and not see the downtown really blossom after all these years.
Very much so. So if you had to say one or two things that you learned going through the experience of running for council, is that something that's an answer you would love to give?
Well, I think anybody that decides to run for any political office has to be thick-skinned.
Okay.
I think you also have to be knowledgeable, and you have to say to yourself, I'm willing to put in the time. Because there's nothing worse than being flogged on a Tuesday night by a whole bunch of people, and then you're not really prepared for it. And how much time are you willing to put into it? Because in the end, you got to have a dialogue with your city manager, because he's the most important person.
Oh, yeah.
So you could run for it, but if there's no money for you to be able to do all the things that you promised, then you find that humbling experience pretty quickly.
I'll build on, if I may, just what you said. You put a lot of time and you take a lot of shellacking for not a whole lot of pay and possible positive recognition. Is that equation about right, or am I just kidding myself?
I don't think you have to go too far to see politics in its glory.
No, and again, just I would think that they say that which does not kills you makes you stronger. You're probably a stronger individual for it. But moving forward, what are some of the expectations that you have? And I know one of the things that really came out in our meeting at Barnes & Noble was leadership just coming out and asking you questions and literally being sincere about listening to you and trying to do their best to implement. I mean, is that something that you're hoping for?
Well, I put on, with 4 other people, we put on debates. One of the things that I was very, very frustrated with in this city is that it's a big enough city now, and it's got a lot of challenges, right? I mean, every year you can pick something out that needs to be conversed about. I would love to see 4 times a year some sort of a dialogue with the citizens on a subject, just like a TED Talk or a debate in which you can actually sit down and have a couple people from the city, or it doesn't have to be from the city, but other people that know something about what it is you're talking about. We're talking about the waste plant, the raising of the taxes.
All kinds of different stuff.
Right. Homeless. I mean, just go down the line. Every city deals with these same problems.
Exactly.
So if you were to have a wonderful spot where you could have people sit down and have a good moderator, have maybe 4 or 5 questions that are already there, and then be able to get questions in from the audience and stretch it out a little bit and have afterwards, you could have some dialogue with those people and kind of learn something about your city. The city has never done a good job of doing that. So it's been very frustrating, and I don't know if I blame the city, because sometimes they don't really want to do that. Sometimes it's okay to throw a little bit of a fog over it. So the challenge would be is having a group that would pull it together. The INCO has tried to do it a couple times. Right. The challenge is can you get the citizens of Oxnard to come out and ask those questions?
It's amazing you say that, because historically, I know you were part of a very benchmark debate that I went to one of them, and I thought, in my opinion, we won't say who the results were, I thought it was actually a very successful beginnings, and that was the debate that you're part of for the city treasurer and city clerks. Correct. That was held over at the PAC Center.
We did it at the PAC.
And I thought that was benchmark, and again, hopefully that's going to happen again.
Well, I think the challenge is that how do you do it on the cheap, still be able to get it out there, and that's social networking.
Exactly.
I wrote the questions, and I figured they were questions that were pretty simple, and if you were serious about that,
very good questions.
you'd be able to answer them. I threw a couple of ringers in there so that you had to know the lingo. But in the end, I think that every 2 years is a cycle for re-election or for election, and on top of that, there should be 3 or 4 nights, maybe 2 hours apiece, where you talk about the issues of that day.
Right.
And because in the end, and record it, just like we're doing now, is to have it recorded so you can go back when that person is elected and say, remember, on this night we had this conversation. I'm not holding you to it too hard, because this is a big subject. But on the other hand, what was it how did you move the ball forward?
No, I love it.
That's the challenge. And other cities have moved forward on these things. Every city struggles with the same problems.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you doing? Right? How do you find a city manager who understands that? How do you find good staff that is not demoralized?
Right.
How do you pay good people a reasonable amount to move the ball forward?
Maintain them.
Correct.
Now, just like an employee. I mean, you being, how many employees do you have?
I only have 2.
2.
I had my fair share. I had a lot of employees, and the Great Recession came along, and that just kind of knocked the wind out of it.
What I like about you is the fact you know how to treat people. And I remember about the questions, there's a lot of good questions, but even throwing in certain acronyms and seeing if people knew what the acronym stood for was actually a very enlightening or embarrassing answer, just depending on who you were talking to.
Correct. I think you weed out pretty quickly, and you find out whether or not there's a true passion there.
It's very much so, and I think especially, it's one thing to win an election, but what you do after the election, maybe 80% of your existence, and maybe the celebration shouldn't happen on election night when you realize you won. I would probably be scared. That's probably the reason why I'm not running, because it would be a scared reality.
Yes.
So, okay, now okay, my ego's kicked in.
Yeah,
I
be
feel
careful
good, I
what you
win.
wish for.
Because guess what? You're about to get flogged, and to your point, I don't have thick skin.
But you know what? I think though, in the end, even with the city in the condition that it's in, it would be a good challenge to be able to take it on. I would like to think that the city is big enough that you can find a city manager that's either local or from Ventura County. And I think that if you have a good mayor and a good couple of people surrounding himself, you should be able to pull together a decent team and be able to start straightening out problems.
Exactly. And without even going into the personalities, I think the structure, the questioning, the filtering process, the debates, and really asking the right questions and getting it out to public and letting the collaboration begins. But I don't lose what the foundation that I'm talking about is you are a business owner and you know how to treat your clients. You listen to them, you ask questions, you don't assume that if there's nothing being said, because they may be unhappy and going to other places.
Correct.
And your company is one of the largest dry cleaners in the county.
Well, there's nothing like having to make payroll.
You know what? I'm with you on that. And see, that's where
Payroll keeps you up at night, and I would think that if you're the mayor or even if you're a city manager, you're asking yourself, basically, they're either going to make some sort of a piñata of me, or they're going to put a statue, and they have to decide if I'm going to be on a horse.
Well, that's
in front of City
really
Hall.
thick cardboard on that piñata.
Right.
And that's say it that
the
way.
challenge.
So.
I think you could really do a good job if you structured it right. And I don't know whether the city. I think everybody wants you to be successful. The challenge is whether or not you've done your homework and you truly can sit down with your management team and be able to pull it together. Because there's nothing worse than getting flogged and going. Did we have that discussion last week? Yeah.
And I connected with you in our calisthenics as the coaching portion of it. How many, when you were a footballer with Coach Sionovich, you would go, well, the other players, other cities. And he would go, I really don't care about other cities. All I care is about you. And I'm sure your mom and dad told you, well, so-and-so got a D. I don't care about other people.
Yeah.
And so that's why I connect with you. It's like, yeah, you want to use other people as a benchmark, but dang it, we're in our city. Let's do something. And also, I just love that spirit about you. It's the entrepreneur, it's the service thing. Can we actually integrate that in terms of how we run the city? That's the big question that we got to ask ourselves. So with that, I want to ask you, who are some of the people you might want to do a shout out to, like, a certain employee or other people who you admire in the area, who you look up to and you take examples, or who are like beacons in this community? Anybody come to mind?
Well, I have two great employees, so I have to give a shout out.
Would you?
Yeah, they have been there for me through thick and thin, and I mean the two that I have basically have been there for 25 years, so we get along really, really well.
You want to say first names?
Micaela and Blanca, they're both there.
Will you please tell them?
If they are willing to stand up and
well, I'm hoping that when you would do this thing, you tell them, hey, you know what? I did a lot of talking, but I did do a shout out because this idiot forced me into doing that.
Yeah. Well, they hung through with me through the recession. I mean, I had 16 employees before the recession, and then when the recession kicked in, I lost 9 of my biggest customers. So, we were working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and then all of a sudden the recession kicked in, and I had to let go a lot of people. And so it was, how do I keep these two at least busy enough? And so we're now starting to get busy enough again where it makes sense for you to go, okay,
now,
all
I'm sure you're going to ask them who you think that third, fourth person to be, their personality. Would you interview them? What do you think? I'm not going to make a sole decision. Again, I'm reading your mind, but I'm a big fan of what
I'm trying to think of who would I... the downtown, as a kid growing up, I had a lot of people I looked up to. They're all gone now. So I'm constantly looking around to see who is it that's that generation. And I'm starting to say to myself, it's you are now of the generation that has to start moving the downtown forward. And just the city. I mean, this is a big city. It's got a lot of neighborhoods. It's got a beach. We walk on the same sand as Malibu. We breathe the same air as Santa Barbara.
We are the largest municipality in the Tri-Counties.
Correct.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, you don't realize how big it is until you start driving around. And so that would be the question, is now that you're of that age where you can start to become, hopefully, someone who can start to say, okay, how do you move the city forward?
Exactly.
Because it's now 2018, and where are we going to be in a year? Where are we going to be in 5?
Well, you had me when you said you grew up, that you went to high school in the 70s. Dude, you had me. So consider me a part of your roster on that one. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the sequel. And go back and watch the first one. He hasn't changed a bit. I don't know what happened to me.
Not at all. It's all the same gray hair.
But with that, thank you very much. It's Peter Godinez with Good Morning Oxnard. Until next time. All right.
All right.
I think so.